The inspiration must have action, physical movement. The fourth step of the creative process is meditation. Meditation is simply awareness. Awareness of what's happening mentally and physically. And from these four steps come creation and innovation.
I know what stress is about. I worked in advertising for 30 years as an art director and a creative director. The average life expectancy for an art director at that time was 56. I beat the odds. I'm now 62. About 10, 12 years ago, I discovered a technique called rebirthing. And I found myself a rebirther here in Manhattan. I went to her, and I learned how to unstress my life. I've now left the industry, and I'm doing rebirthing on my own for other people. Rebirthing is a breathing technique. You learn to bring your breath to the upper chest. You take a deep breath, and then you let go. Now, the important part of rebirthing, breathing, is there are two things. One is to keep the breath connected, and the other one is to let go on the exhale. So there's no pause between the inhale and the exhale. The power of the breath is in the merger of the inhale to the exhale. This breath, called pranayama, called yogic breath, called karma breath, was originally thought to exist in India. The gurus would use it along with their ashramites, and he would have, or she would have, the ashramites breathe. They discovered that it would cleanse them. It would reduce stress. It would heal them. It would give them all the power to be all they could be. For generations, it was thought that the process was lost. About 30 years ago, a man called Leonard Orr happened to be in his tub, and he was breathing. And his breath took off. We call it a breath release. We call it where your body breathes you, rather than you breathe it. And as he was breathing, he experienced his birth trauma. And he released it. And he noticed after the technique, after the process, that his life was a little easier. There was a little less struggle in his life. There was a new understanding of life. And there was a lot less stress. So he did it again, and he did it again, and he did it again. Each time he did it in water. Now what he discovered was called rebirthing. And he turned around and he called it rebirthing because he had experienced his birth trauma. Since then, he's tried to rename it any number of times because this does a lot more than just release the birth trauma. So the way it's used today is we dry rebirth people for several sessions, and then we put them into warm water. Now warm water is particularly good for reducing stress. As you can imagine, it's like a warm bath. And then when you combine the breath with it, you can sense the stress just going out into that water. Now, there's also... Keep the breath connected. All the effort on the inhale. And let go of the exhale. One circular breath. The type of people that I see, my clients, include investment bankers, lawyers, people with a lot of deadlines, people with great responsibility, people with a lot of stress in their life. They've got a lot of balls in the air. I have a woman who comes to me who has over 100 people reporting to her. She has lots of deadlines and lots of responsibility. When she comes in, I look at her and I can tell she's in a very stressful state. You know, I always look and I notice that she has no neck. You know, her shoulders are almost meet her ears. She lies down, she breathes. after we've talked a while, and I see her relax. I see her neck appear, I see her shoulders come down, I see her arms rest and her hands open. And one session she said to me, "This is what it's all about." And I asked her, what does she mean by that? And she said, this is what life is all about. You know, enjoying, relaxing. She's now had perhaps 20 sessions, and it's really helped her on the job. She knows when she's in a stressful situation at work, and everybody's banging at her door, and they all need an answer right now, that she can breathe. She's very faithful with rebirthing. I see other people. I have an investment banker. The woman travels all over the globe. And she has a lot of responsibility in her bosses. She has 2 bosses, and they're both at her all the time. They want her to do their job first. And she, too, has learned about rebirthing and what the breath can do, the power in the breath. It releases stress. It lets go of stress. And it doesn't come back. The stresses that I find easiest to deal with through rebirthing would be on-the-job stress, emotional stress in a relationship perhaps, financial stress. These would be the stresses that I find easiest to deal with.
Core energetics provides a place for people to put their feelings, and in so doing, it releases tensions. The tensions are in the body, and they're really feelings that are being held and that have been held. And that's what the stress is. Core energetics sees stress as an inner problem more than an outer problem. It's how you deal with the pressure, what you do with it, what you do with the feelings that are evoked when you are under pressure. It's an integrative, body-centered therapy which puts together every level of your being, your mentality, your emotions, your spirit, and your physical body. Now, how do you do this? You do it by, one, getting inside your process of creating tensions, getting inside of how you created your body and how you created your life. We call it body reading, and the person who's involved, the client, learns to do this. 2, we provide exercises that help to break up these hardened tissues and release very old feelings, cries, tears, and along with that, memories, associations, images. And then 3, the third phase, is to help the person build a ground, a supportive ground for this new stuff, for these new feelings. The heart opens up and you vibrate. And then the issue is, how can you sustain it? Releasing is not that difficult. The difficult part is sustaining and supporting your new energy. What I'm doing now is helping Benedicta, the person who's my student, get inside of her creative process. That is how she creates the shape of her energy. And how she creates the shape of her energy is a manifestation of her response to stress, beginning with day 1, with the day of her, or the moment of her conception and her life in her mother's womb, and then birth, and then throughout childhood. By the time you're 3, 4 years old, you're made. That's it. And it shapes the way in which you respond to stress as an adult. The first thing is the how process, to get inside of how you hold, how you tense, because when you know how you do it, then you have a chance to undo it. And it's a very deep and a very quiet, can be a very quiet process. Okay, now I'd like to demonstrate that, right? How do you feel your energy? Where do you put most of your energy in your body?
I feel I put most of my energy up in my upper body. I don't have the sense